Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. We now know we have an upcoming balance patch for Guilty Gear Strive. In fact, we have two of them. One for the later end of August and one sometime in October. Now, we do know the October one is going to be much more significant than the August one, but the August one still will have changes. Specifically, the developers put out here that their main goals for the August patch are strengthening the characters that they have determined to be lacking in power and improving moves that don't have enough options for use, along with considering changing the damage output or minor adjustments to the properties of overwhelmingly powerful characters and moves. However, we will make these decisions very carefully. So with that knowledge in mind, I thought I would make today's video here and have a look at just who exactly with this August patch would be in line for some of these changes. They did specifically state not everyone's going to be touched, right? So the people's at the extremes, the bottoms and the tops of the tier list, the overall power of the game, those are the characters that are generally going to be getting touched. You know, the people that are just kind of around the middle of things, like a Giovanna as an example, I don't think Giovanna's really going to get anything. So with that said here, let's just take a little hypothetical look at some of the characters that are struggling and some of the characters that are maybe just a little bit too strong and what can be done for changes in this upcoming balance patch. So when we're looking at lower tier characters that can definitely use a little bit of love, I think Faust is the poster boy. Since about the game's start, he's been identified as probably the worst overall character in the game. There's definitely other people in the low tier club, but he is the poster boy for it. And why is he the poster boy for it? Well, there's more than a few things, and definitely not everything will be addressed. But some of the things that stick out to me is the fact that he does bad damage. His damage output in a very high damage game is kind of low. His frame data on a lot of normals is bad. Either it's slow startup, the fastest movie has is 6 frames, or just things are more negative than they have to be. Something like, say, a crouching heavy slash is pretty dang negative. And once again, this is a movie you'd want to use in combo structure, right? And, well, you don't want to risk it a lot of the time. And item toss being random, and hey, there you go. Perfect start here. The horn. I don't have the numbers. I don't think the numbers would exist, but I can almost guarantee you the horn will go to the enemy more often than it will be to Faust, just because it puts it so far ahead, right? A lot of his item selection in this game versus some previous games, there's a lot more misses than hits a lot of the time, and simple things can change. So when it comes to direct changes, one of the things I would like to see that would just help him out in neutral and general pressure and just everything is make crouch heavy slash just less negative on block. Because at almost every conceivable range, you're going to get punished for trying to use it. And if you think, well, I'll cancel an item toss, you're actually even more negative if you cancel an item toss. So that's not going to save you. You could go into like mix, but that's a whole nother bucket of issues in and of itself, right? It currently is -12 as it stands. So I would like to see it maybe -10 or something. Still don't use it like point blank. Still have issues using it at ranges that are less than optimal, but don't make it the easiest thing in the world for every character in the game just to punish, right? Most characters, like their stand slash or something like that, anywhere from like 10 to 12 frames. And generally speaking, if this gets blocked, that's a free punish, right? So I would just like to see that maybe just a little bit less negative. So still got to space it correctly, but it's just less easy punish all the time. The trumpet. I would like to see this just basically launch just a little closer to Faust. Now I know there is the setup where if you toss it and you know it's a trumpet, you wait a second, go scarecrow, you can kind of scarecrow yourself into it, but like, you don't need elaborate setups. It's a pretty powerful move, all things being told, but since all things being equal, it just launches much closer to the enemy than it does to you. Just bring it in a couple pixels towards Faust just to make his life a little bit easier. And finally, and maybe this is one of the bigger ones here, I see no harm in letting Faust standing punch be a 5-frame move. It would mean a lot to him. There are other characters that have the 6-frame jab, yes. But in the case, let's say Amelia, right? Amelia is an offensive dynamo. She should struggle on defense. Like, if she's blocking, she already kind of screwed up, right? So having slower normal in that regard, sure, whatever. Faust, he can't control the screen that amazingly. He can do a decent job of it, right? But people are going to get in. And I don't think it harms him to have an average speed normal. Like, considering a lot of his basic confirms are like something like that, you know, because you can't risk going for the bigger buttons because they're so negative and all that kind of stuff, right? I think that's just eminently fair. Like, just let the boy breathe a little bit when someone's directly on top of him, because it's gonna happen. Angie is the second of the 3 stooges of low tier in Guilty Gear Strive, and he's a trickier case, because legitimately, even small changes to Angie could lead to massive balance ramifications. Like, people say Angie's so easy to defend against, right? Like, after Fujin, you just block and then you react if the overhead happens. And, well, they can say, well, make the overhead faster. It is currently 25 frames to startup, so it's certainly not fast, right? But if you shave a few frames off of it, you made like 21 frames or something, all of a sudden it gets like near unreactable. If you remember Mortal Kombat 11 Sub-Zero 19 frame overhead, that kind of was an issue for many years, right? So you don't want to just say, okay, make the overhead faster, because then all of a sudden Angie gets overwhelmingly stronger with very little to cap him from growth. But some things here. Angie's neutral is not the best, right? I guess the best you could say is decidedly very average. And one thing that could help him a lot is just make Butterfly more usable in neutral. As it stands, it's an incredibly slow move. I know the idea is you're meant to like use it off, like, you get a sweep in the Butterfly, all that kind of stuff. But it wouldn't hurt for the projectile to be a little bit faster. And also for once it connects, the follow-up here, the bird, just to stay a little bit closer to the enemy. Maybe not travel as far forward, because there are plenty of situations where, like, you'll get it, and then it just has, like, no chance of hitting the enemy. So to remove those situations would definitely help him quite a bit. One thing after Fujin is the projectile toss. Maybe just adding a few more plus frames. It is already plus on block, which is very good, but it's plus on block with, just a decent amount of pushback, right? If I'm +4 and, like, I can't really threaten very much other than, like, maybe a slash or something, right? It's not very good pressure, and the enemy is all the way free just to backdash out if you're going to try to hit a regular normal, right? So maybe just an extra couple frames more plus on block just to make it a more attractive option, because as it stands, Angie is putting his life on the line when he does any other options other than the low, because it is the easiest thing just to mash reversals just through everything. 3 of his 4 options get crushed by reversal. Only the low is gapless and safe. So if he's got to submit himself to these kind of risks already, then just giving him a little bit more to work with, that can mean a lot to him, right? If it was a couple more frames plus, maybe I can just dash real quick and, then start some pressure, right? Versus just doing like pretty anemic like slash or something and hoping you mashed. And if you block, then whatever. And if you backdash out, then whatever, So a couple more plus frames there can help a lot. Just a few ideas. Once again, this August patch is not going to be as big of a deal as the October patch coming up. And Angie is a character you could easily buff a bit and just he becomes too strong. So those are just some ideas. Also, I would love to hear in the comments below just some of the ideas you'd have for Angie to help him out and not just make him overpowered and busted. And Gold Lewis, the third of the 3 stooges here of low tier and Guilty Gear Strive. I made a big video on why Gold Lewis struggles here. Knowing this is a smaller patch, the biggest things I would say is this. He's got a lot of issues, some of them are sort of systemic, but to make his life livable, he's got a myriad of hitbox issues. If the enemy is crouching or any kind of low to the ground, a lot of his moves will not work. And it's not even just crouching, like they can be standing just fine, right? Like any kind of running forward, even if your hitbox dips even the slightest bit, Things like stand punch, things like stand slash, they will whiff. Stand slash, if the enemy has any kind of crouching attack, he's gonna completely whiff over their head. This is a very important move for his neutral. His neutral is already suspect as it stands, so this is a move he absolutely needs to control space. And when you cannot rely on the move that is designated as your neutral slash footsies button, that is very frustrating. And there's a lot of scenarios where someone will poke back at you and you literally cannot hit them because they're too low to the ground. Danger. Your only option is to go for much slower moves, and well, then you're going to get your head beat in. So for Gold Lewis, the biggest issues simply are extend slash better hitboxes. Make stand punch hit lower to the ground. Make UMA 6P hit a little bit lower to the ground, maybe a little bit more range, so you can actually counter poke with it like literally every other character in the game. 6P, that'd be nice. Stand slash also needs a hitbox hits lower to the ground, so certain other characters' pokes just can't invalidate his neutral, which sucks really bad. And he is indeed in the 6-frame punch gang. And you know what? That's fine. Whatever. We can work with it. But make it just a little bit better, because as it stands, like, it's very anemic range. You can barely hit anybody. So if this is the only button he can press, because it's the single fastest button, right? If this is the only button he can press when he's pressured, then at least make it please hit the enemy while they're pressuring him. Now, what about the top tier? A big part of this patch seemingly is to help the low tier, right? And we don't want to cripple the top tier. Maybe bring them down a little bit, but we don't want to cripple them. Top tier is fun to play, right? And if you do anything but the most bare bone basic nerfs, you'll find a big exodus as everyone will say their character's ruined and dead forever, right? Hyperbole, sure, but we've seen it happens every single time in every single game, right? So what are some baby nerfs that are feel-good nerfs that people can understand and, work with and live with? For Chip, specifically, jump down kick. Like, this move is stupid. Come on. We all know it. Come on. If you play Chip, if you can't defend this move, it's dumb. So the one thing I would say for this move is you can keep the trajectory, you can keep the multi-hit, you can keep everything about it, right? That is fine. But make it so the hurt box of the move, the part where you can hit Chip, is extended downwards just a little bit. Meaning, it's just a little bit easier to hit him with a 6P. A lot of characters basically can't hit him at all with a 6P. A little bit easier to jump and tap him. Maybe a little bit easier to jump and throw him, right? Just a little bit easier to deal with. It still retains all of its positive properties, but it's just manageable and workable. If you actually see it coming, you can deal with it. Versus how it is where you can still see it coming and not deal with it. So now Soul. Soul's crazy. We all know it, right? But even though he's pretty much the best character in the game, he's not that difficult to fight. Like, yeah, he has like an advantage almost every match, but it's like an advantage in a fair way, right? It's a very manageable top tier. Although the problem is once he gets going, the risk starts building up. You blocked a little too many stand slashes, right? He can just outright kill you in like a single combo. So the thing, and this is their own wording as per the developer's backyard, where they're considering changes to damage output and otherwise minor adjustments, is change his damage output. Let him have all his tools for now. We can worry about the proper nerfs in the October patch, right? Let him have his tools for now, but tone the damage down a little bit, please. Like, say, adjusting the damage of clean hit uppercut. So if you're a little off the mark here, that's how much damage you do. But if you hit as a clean hit, like as deep as you can, the damage gets much more significant, as you can see, right? And once again, using that in combos with any kind of risk built up here, those are the game over combos. So things like adjusting the damage on a clean hit uppercut, adjusting the damage, maybe even on things like stand slash, right? I don't want to say nerf the frame data or whatever, maybe in the future, but he just does too much in a game that is already about high damage. Soul does too much damage. I think the clean hit uppercuts is one of the biggest criminals in this whole matter when it comes to combo structure stuff. But yeah, just tone his damage down. Let Soul be Soul. Let him do everything he's going to do, I guess. but maybe let it so it takes 1 or 2 extra hits to kill you. Because as it stands, if you didn't block, you're in for a real bad time. So those are some of the more heinous top tier examples and some of the more unfortunate low tier examples, right? There's a lot of people in the middle, and they said a lot of people, they're not going to get changes. Like May. Sure, May's annoying. Like, we all know it, but is May going to get nerfed? Well, no, not really. I don't see her really getting nerfed. She's annoying, sure, but she's a fair kind of annoying, right? Someone like Nagoriyuki. Nagoriyuki is someone, like, we all thought he was kind of bad when the game launched. And as we learn the game, we get better at the game, then like, oh, okay, actually, he's pretty good, right? So buffs? Probably not. Maybe some changes I would like to see is, like, some of his dust button moves that use the big sword do not drain the blood meter, which is against how everything else works. Everything that uses the big sword, except for some of the dust attacks, drains the blood meter, but those don't. I think that would be all right. That's not going to break the game to bring that in line with every other move, right? Someone like Leo, obviously not going to get buffs. Will he get nerfs? I don't know. He's strong. I feel like Chip and Soul are stronger, and they kind of have more easily identifiable things that you can just tweak a little bit. Versus, you know, if you cripple anything in like back turn stance, you kind of ruin the character. So that's a bit rough, right? Someone like Axel, he's obviously not the best character in the game, but he's got the most lopsided matches. Like, yeah, he gets run over by a lot of the stronger characters, right? But he also completely runs over most of the rest of the cast. So he definitely has his strengths as well as his weaknesses. And if you change anything one way or the other, it could be like a cascading landslide and just either make him too strong or too weak. So that's another guy. Maybe we save those changes for the October patch. But that is just some of my speculation, some of my thoughts on the matter for now. As it stands, we know we'll be getting this later in August. We got to finish up Evo, all that kind of stuff first here. And we'll also be getting the new downloadable character. Who knows who that'll be. But the patch changes, I'm very excited to see. There'll be smaller changes and the big stuff comes in October. But even, well, small changes have big effects, right? So that's some of my ideas, and I would sincerely love to hear some of your ideas. So please post in the comments below some of the changes you would like to see in the upcoming August balance patch. Of course, when the patch comes, you'll have full coverage on this channel of every little detail. But until that point, my friends, I guess that is the end of the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well. Go out and play some Guilty Gear.
Love me.